Welcome to my remote workstation. I'm Josh Morton, Augustine Athletic Director, and for the last 3 weeks, like many of you, I've called my basement my workspace. I hope you and your family are healthy and safe, and as we all adjust in our own way to the COVID-19 pandemic, I wanted to reach out to you as A Club members, both to share a new feature we'll be doing called the Viking Video Chats. I'm excited to talk to Coach Billeter in just a second, but also to say thank you. You'll be getting your A Club and season ticket renewals in the mail soon, and please know, we send those out very mindful of our current uncertainties. Because of that, we want to talk with you, help you find a way to keep supporting our student athletes. Our payment plan options are now very flexible. We have no price increases, and quite frankly, we're just here to help. So take a look at the letter that accompanies the renewal information. Reach out to me or Emily Punt, our Director of Athletics Annual Giving. So thanks in advance for considering supporting our amazing student athletes. They continue to go to class and have adjusted very well to distance learning. Our staff continues to do the same. They continue to work on our student athletes' behalf. It's been fun for our daily or sometimes every other day video chats that we do as staff and coaches to share some best practices for keeping connected and engaged. We were having quite a year as an athletic department in 2019-20. As you probably saw, we were leading the NSIC All Sports standings, which recognizes broad-based excellence. And with the success of our spring sports, I have no doubt we would have finished the year on top. But now we'll just wait till next year. And we look forward to being a respite for you once we do come back. We look forward to seeing you cheering on our student athletes. So thanks in advance for your continued support of the A Club and our amazing student athletes. When we do come back, we'll be better than ever, and we'll do it together. Pleased to be joined by head men's basketball coach Tom Billeter. Coach, the last 4 weeks, hard for all of us to describe, but how would you describe as the head basketball coach your last 4 weeks?
Josh, it's been it'll be something that we're going to be able to say we all got through and got to be a part of. It's a part of history. I think it's going to have some implications for this country in a lot of different ways. I think some maybe not so great, but I think even more are going to be better down the road. I think it's going to make us all better. I've seen an awful lot of good things. So, as far as a coach and what have you, being men's basketball coach, it's a bit different for us because we've just spent 6 days a week with our players for 6 months. We've been with them all the time. And this is our time period up until about now where we gave them some space. We weren't going to be, necessarily checking in every day, seeing them every single day, always there, obviously, in the office. But this is our busy recruiting time. This is a time we're at the Final Four for our convention. This is a lot going on with, whether it be NCAA regionals and what have you, to high school tournaments, to state tournaments. So for basketball, unfortunately for the Final Four, NCAA tournament, regionals, bad timing. Other than that, not all that bad for us because this is a time period where, and right now with the Final Four over this week, a little bit of last week, we would have been doing individuals. And that's the part I miss. These are nothing but fun. It's offensive individuals working on the things they want to get better at. Our players have a lot of say in the spring as to what they want to do during their hour workout. And so we're missing that. But overall, the resiliency of my players I've been very impressed with, and we've stayed organized. We've done a good job. My staff does an outstanding job, and I think right now we're okay, as good a situation as it could be for what we're in.
Yeah, I think people forget that at your core you're a teacher, and that's what you probably love, and you don't get that many opportunities throughout the year to have one-on-one time with your players to teach, and so that's a tough part for you guys to miss out on.
And probably because of that, our fall will be different. We're going forward. We have probably 3 plans in place for whatever happens, whether this continues further or longer than we wish, gets over when we hope, or what happens is somewhat in between. And we have already met as a staff as to what we're going to do with each scenario. And one of those major parts of the plan come fall, after you get a base of where we're at, find out what kind of condition each athlete's in, what have you, we'll do more individual work than we normally would in the fall to kind of catch up for the spring for several reasons. But mainly for me, it's what you just said. It's a time for the player to have questions and ask. He feels it's a great situation for a player-coach relationship. A lot of times we'll be out working and we'll talk about everything but basketball as we're going through various routines. So we will definitely incorporate what we've missed into our fall workouts come next September.
And I give you and your staff a lot of credit because you jumped right in to figure out, okay, now we know the parameters. NCAA said no, we're in a dead period, which means no face-to-face contact with recruits until through at least May 31st. But it's still finding ways, because you mentioned it. This is a big recruiting time for you guys, and so just finding different ways to still recruit and sell Augustana. But also, what have you been doing with your team? How have you been keeping those guys engaged?
Yeah, what we met early as a staff and decided that was important was to somewhat, as best as we can, still have a form of a routine, still have a connection where we're not really necessarily bothering them, and not, we want to more alleviate anxiety and help them understand this is a unique time period. They're going to have some time on their hands. They may have a day or two where they feel like, man, no one has called me, or where am I with things, or a lot of things can happen. And our big thing has been, this is going to get over. We're going to get better from it, but plan on this being a while. This wasn't going to be a 4-day, 2-week. And you and I have talked about that in the past. We're taking the marathon route, to be real honest. And so I'd rather be wrong.
Yeah.
We're kind of planning on it being longer and be corrected than have, done everything in 2 or 3 weeks. And now we're just kind of sitting out there without a whole lot going on or change. So simple things that we did immediately. Obviously, all programs do. Obviously you meet, you do your Zoom, you do your conference, all that. The unique things that we've done different is one thing that's been really neat. Coach Hederman is doing a weekly Bible study. I volunteer, but it's been a very well received hour that he's been doing on either a Thursday or a Friday. He gets in contact with them. We've done some other neat things through, really led by Matt Cartwright, one of our players. We're using this time. We feel like our leadership's been okay, but needs improvement. I think next year we're more juniors and seniors than we've been in the last 3 years. We need leadership to emerge, something that Matt has done, visiting with my staff and, visiting with us, making sure it's okay. He put groups of 3 and 4 together. They check in, they play video games together. They do a lot of things. There will be no coach in on that. That's our players initiating it. And then they may come up with certain questions. They'll ask us these questions, but it's kind of player run. And to be honest, it's one of the best things we've done. They're having fun with it. It's something that you'll see at night, video games where they're all in playing against each other, watching, doing various things, which is, that this type of action is good, I think, during something like this. So, what we've done is, obviously I did my exit, from the season. It was unique because you always talk about summer plans too. And
Yeah.
that was a bit different. But, we went, I called every player. I didn't do it through Zoom. I did it with a good old fashioned phone call. I hate when we're talking and it freezes up, or I like their attention to be my voice and their voice. Way prefer to do it in person, but I really liked how we did it. Each player signed up for a certain time block, and I knocked those out in a 2-3 day period. And I thought those went extremely well. I thought that was a good time, very good timing to do something like that. There's a million little things, obviously, we're all doing. You had actually mentioned your son is doing. Obviously, we do a workout kind of put together mostly by Coach Othie or Coach Chambers, put a workout together for our guys that don't necessarily involve weights. Those that have access to weights, they're doing things.
Yeah.
Those that have access to other, we're sure saying don't do that. But in case you don't, a lot of push-ups, sit-ups. I've got the team running a mile. They always report what they ran their time in. More things like that. Let's keep them involved. I'm not expecting them to come back in tremendous shape. I'm prepared that they won't be. They're young. They're resilient. We'll get them back there rather quickly. But I'm not losing sleep at night if I think one of my players maybe didn't do his mile run that day. That'll come out in the end, and we'll figure it all out, and we'll get them back when we need them and where we need them.
It is so interesting. And so you mentioned Matt Cartwright. I know all of us are excited to see him back on the court. It's interesting because all of our sports are really in different places too, because if you're a fall sport right now, everything is so driven by a calendar, right? And while, I know all of us want to speculate on when we'll be back, and I don't know, I take the approach that I'm an athletic director. I'm neither a doctor nor a scientist. So anything that I guess is the same as anybody else. But we can only be as optimistic to say we're going to start on time in the fall. We can't wait to kick off football, soccer, cross country, volleyball. And if we have to adjust, we will. But your calendar is a little different, right? I mean, you typically your calendar moves up in the fall, but really this is really their time to kind of recover anyway. So for your guys, it might be a little different. I've enjoyed our coaches' calls because we've had a chance to share information and what others are doing and just little things that maybe we could incorporate. But talk about routine and how important that is, because I think as human beings, habits and routines kind of guide our whole lives. It's certainly the case for 18 to 22-year-olds because they need some structure.
Yeah, it's a great question. You know how routine oriented our program is. You know, we're a program that's basically been in place long enough where kids that come into our program a little bit conform to our program, what our foundation is, what our drive, and we strive for excellence. We do it within our program. We're held to a certain accountability, both on and off the floor. Upperclassmen hold the underclassmen to that. We do take it as an honor to represent Augustana. We take it as an honor to be a part of this basketball program. We take that to a great, I mean, we really are proud of what we've built here, and we make that for our players. And we want them to respond in a like way and to help the freshmen and the youngsters that come along and to continuously keep in place what they were able to become a part of. Routine is something that helps with that. And what I mean by that is positive actions, energy, positive actions, things that only build you up. You can't let negativity or things that destroy a program or crack a foundation, you can't let those in. And what I mean by that, and something that we're very proud of with our players, you know, all we've really talked about, and I like your approach, all we've really talked about is next season. And this is where we were this year. You know, we completely broke this past season down, and we went through what was good and we went through what was bad. And I'm going somewhere with this because this is a very good question. You know, we were 17-3 this past season in every month but January. But in January, where we completely change our schedule, we have what's called J-term, and our kids go to class for a 3-4 hour segment, 5 days a week, and then they have a lot of time on their hands. Well, during that time period, we were 2-10. I think we got out of routine. I do think it changed. And now I think you have a really good, now you could just kind of, you know, not address that, ignore it, or that was just something strange that happened. What's 2 years in a row for us that we've had a January like that? And so we've kind of got them, and I visited with each and every one of them, their thoughts on what happened during that time period. I'm not going to hide it. What did you think? What would you do different? What do I need to do different as a head coach, a staff? We approached all of it. And you know, the number one, 90% of my players came up with out of routine, that they were just, it was different. And when you're younger, you're trying to figure it out. Now they're going to be juniors and seniors. They should have a handle on it. And what was funny, the answer that most gave me that they think we need to do, we need to practice more, even though we're during our season. We need to maybe go lighter if we can in the mornings, which is hard because they have class, come back in the afternoons. Well, we might have to go a little bit hard, but shorter in the afternoons. Let's come back in the evenings, at least on Tuesday, Wednesday. You know, so your question, to be real honest, was deeper than that, but the basis of it was routine. Yeah. And when you get out of order, our society is based on order. You know, the best things in life are based on order. And when you get out of that, you tend to just a little bit of an opening to allow dysfunction come in. And that's what I thought happened to us during our J term. And I think our players have learned from that. Yeah, no, as a 45-year-old, I'm still trying to keep at it. And then this whole COVID-19 pandemic's been a challenge, right? Because here I'm in my basement, you know, and trying to figure out what my new routine looks like. It's hard enough for me, and I'm not juggling school. You mentioned the season, first season in the Pentagon. I know I was thrilled, and I knew I would be, but being in that building as much as we were now, just reiterates what a great decision it was. And I think the majority of the people I visited with would agree. I don't think there's anyone that wouldn't love to have games on campus. We all would. There's nobody that would argue that. But we don't have a great situation for that if you're going to sell season ticket packages, if you're going to have suites. It's nobody's fault. The Elman Center was a blessing, and thank goodness to the Elman family for allowing that building to be built, and it still serves so many purposes and helps so many things. We love the Elman Center. Having said that, if you can't be there and you can't be on campus, I don't know if anyone could have a better place to go than a facility that's in the top 100 in the nation when you talk to coaches about naming a facility that isn't on it necessarily a campus or something like that, when they used to go like Old Kemper Arena or places like that, Pentagon always comes up. It's a venue that's very intimate, yet shows extremely well on TV, wonderful to recruit to. The amenities are phenomenal, not only for the players. Nobody comes into a locker room, visitors, like the locker room they're going to experience when they come into that facility. And the overall, from the fan standpoint, to the coaches, to the players, to the media, you feel like you're at a college basketball game. And a big thing in my life has always been every college athlete deserves a college experience. And what I mean by that is, the proper attire, gear, travel, being treated like a collegiate athlete. I feel like as an administration and as coaches, we owe that to our student athletes. Yep. And I feel like the Pentagon helps really bring that out. A negative of the Pentagon, we never get anyone not ready to play because
everybody loves playing there,
and they love it. They love being there. They know our postseason tournament's going to be there. Some of those teams have never been there because they'd gotten beat first round and never got to advance. So every single game we play in the Pentagon, we get every single team's best shot, and that's the way it should be. And it's been that way for us since 2016, obviously, but even in 2014, 15, we were pretty good. Teams would come, we're one of those teams everyone wants to beat. For whatever reason, they like to beat us. And so they come to the Pentagon and they get to play in a great atmosphere. They get to play in a special place. You're going to always see a quality basketball game there. And we are extremely fortunate and honored to have the opportunity to play there.
Okay. And I hardly recognized you when you came on because the mustache is back.
90% of every coach I've talked to has some form of facial hair right now. It's just their time. They don't have to be out recruiting. They're not on TV much, not a lot going on. So everybody I know, football, basketball, all the coaches I've been talking to, everyone is growing some form of a beard or another. This will be off soon.
This is 4 weeks for me. So,
I was going to say, I didn't say administrators. I said coaches. So every coach I've been talking to for their first time ever might be sporting the first beard they've ever had because it's just a time period we're able to do it.
Okay. Any new indulgence that you've come up with streaming on Netflix or Hulu or whatever? Midco on demand for me. I found some good stuff, but anything for you?
You know this about me. I'm reading a really good book. Yep. I'm reading Spearhead. It's a actual true novel. About, I don't know if you saw, there was a movie with Brad Pitt a while back. He's a tank commander. Well, it's based on that movie called Fury. And it's a true story. The research the writer did in it, it's been fantastic. I like to read. I'm really going nuts. I've really realized how little TV I watch and how much sports I do watch.
I know. Our family too.
Yeah. And even ESPN is, I like the NFL draft as much as anybody, but I've heard more about this NFL draft than I have about our entire league and every game we played and every scouting report we had for basketball. So I'm about drafted out. So really there's not, unless you are into horse racing, which I can honestly tell you I'm not, because that's one of the few things left in America that's competing. There's not a whole lot to do for me because I am a huge sports watcher, like I think we all are, but I really realize now too much. My wife and I put in a rule. We don't even turn our TV on during the day. We'll have music on. And, I think I've alluded to this with you. I know you have been too. We're busy. We have our call with administration almost every morning this week. We've slowed that down a bit, but that takes time. I always call my staff after that phone call, just like you call us after your usual 9 o'clock one. Been in contact with our players, done exit meetings. Still I always pick an alum or 2 or 3 a week to call who I haven't possibly talked to in some time. I actually made 2 calls today. So by the time 3 or 4 o'clock rolls around, I've had a pretty good day, so we're staying busy, and staying in routine because I think you have to, and actually I'm thankful that I have been here long enough to have enough people to call and enough things to do to keep myself busy at this time. Cause you and I've kidded. I don't know, you might be different, but I have no skills. I can't cut wood or, I pretty much have my job and that's about it. So that's about all I can do.
Well, and thankfully, our friends at Midco have been replaying some good basketball games.
I watched our game at USF the other day. Yeah, I watched that game. It's fun to watch when you're not breaking it down.
That's right. You know what happens.
You've been you'll come by our offices and you'll see our players on the floor and on the couch and in chairs. And, you have 5 or 6 players in there watching games. It's a totally different way of watching it with no one in the room except your wife, who's kept telling me, honey, I was there. I'd stop and show her this or rewind that. We didn't bump this back screen. They run the same play off the UCLA back screen twice in a row. We give up a layup. And I'm just showing my wife, and she's kind of my only person I get to show film to, I guess, now. But it was fun to watch that game. And synergy's awesome because you can bring up your season and work on. And we're tweaking some offensive things, and we're going to scheme up a little bit different for next year.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've enjoyed too is just carving out some time to call colleagues across the country, and just because we're all dealing with something. And how what are they doing? Maybe that we could implement as a staff. How are they communicating with your staff, with your student athletes? So I've enjoyed that. So it's just kind of been forcing myself a little bit to carve out some time to make sure to keep those contacts too.
What's interesting, Josh, is that if we continue this once this is over, this has been great.
Yep.
Some of this. So what I've learned is even when we get back to our old routine, I'm going to continue to do some of the things I've learned during this time period that I think are nothing beneficial. And for that, I'm thankful to have learned some new things or what have you during this time that I think are going to lead to strengths for our program.
Yeah. And one of the big things I've learned is don't try to keep 3 teenagers on task when they don't really have much going on at school. So
I can't imagine that. I'm so thankful my 4 are gone because, and that sounds bad probably, but I think you more than ever understand now what I'm talking about. So, hey, God bless all you parents out there homeschooling and having a lot of teenagers around home right now, because I know it's good things too, but I guarantee you there's times it's great. They probably miss school. I can't, every one of my players wishes they were at Augie. They really miss Augie and being on campus. And, that's a good thing. Sometimes you have to go without to really appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Coach. Thanks very much.
Josh, thanks for doing this. It's a good idea during these times and appreciate you having me on.
Yep, take care.